The ground shook as another plasma blast hit the Coalition base. Jake Morrison wiped sweat from his face and looked up at the dark sky. Purple smoke filled the air from burning buildings. The war on Zirion Prime was not going well. Jake was a human engineer. He fixed things. That was his job. But right now, there was not much left to fix. The alien bugs called the Hive had been attacking for 3 weeks. They destroyed everything they touched. The Coalition was losing. The Coalition was made up of 7 different alien races. Humans were the newest members. Most aliens thought humans were weak and stupid. Jake did not care what they thought. He just wanted to help win this war. A loud cry came from the main building. Jake walked toward the sound. Other people were walking that way too. Something important was happening. Inside the building, a crowd had gathered. In the center stood Queen Zarathix. She was tall and had blue skin that looked like metal. Her eyes were golden and very bright. She was the leader of the Valyrian warrior race. The Valyrians were known for being brave fighters, but right now, the queen was crying. Jake had never seen an alien cry before. It looked strange, but also very sad. The queen was standing next to a pile of broken metal pieces. The pieces were different colors: silver, gold, and deep blue. They seemed to glow with their own light. "My armor," the queen said in a voice that shook with pain. "My family's armor. It has protected Valyrian queens for 3,000 years. Now it is broken." Jake looked at the broken pieces more carefully. Even broken, he could tell the armor had been beautiful. The metalwork was amazing. Whoever made it was very skilled. An alien with 6 arms stepped forward. This was Veltar, the best engineer from the Zentaurian race. His people were famous for making complex machines. "My queen," Veltar said, "I have tried to fix your armor for 2 days. The quantum matrix is completely destroyed. The molecular bonds are broken. This armor cannot be repaired with any known technology." Other alien engineers nodded sadly. They had all tried to help. There was Crix from the Crystal people. His race could fix almost anything made of crystal or metal. There was also Yothma from the gas world of Helios. Her people were experts with energy systems. All of them had failed. "The ancient techniques are lost," said another engineer. "Your ancestors knew secrets that we do not know. The old ways of making and fixing are gone forever." Queen Zarathix fell to her knees next to the broken armor pieces. She picked up a piece that looked like part of a chest plate. A single tear rolled down her blue cheek. "Who repaired this armor when it was damaged before?" she asked the crowd. Her voice was breaking. "My grandmother wore this armor, her grandmother before her. It has been damaged in battle many times, but it was always fixed, always made strong again." She looked around at all the alien faces. Scientists, engineers, generals, and soldiers all stared back at her. None of them had an answer. "The smiths who made this armor are dead," she continued. "Dead for 1,000 years. Their secrets died with them. And now the Hive will destroy us all because I cannot wear the armor of my people." The crowd was quiet. Everyone knew how important the armor was. It was not just protection for the queen. It was a symbol. It gave hope to all Valyrian warriors. Without it, their spirit would break. Jake looked at the broken pieces again. Something about them seemed familiar. The way the metal was bent, the patterns and the damage. He had seen similar things before when working on damaged vehicles and machines. He started to step forward, then stopped. Who was he to try when all these smart aliens had failed? He was just a human. His tools were simple. His knowledge was basic compared to theirs. But then he looked at Queen Zarathix again. She was still crying. Her people needed her to be strong. The whole coalition needed her to be strong. If she gave up, they would all die. Jake took a deep breath and pushed through the crowd. "Excuse me," he said in a quiet voice. Nobody heard him. The aliens were too busy talking about how hopeless the situation was. "Excuse me," Jake said louder. A few aliens looked at him. Most ignored him. Humans were not important in their minds. Jake walked right up to the broken armor pieces. He knelt down next to Queen Zarathix. She looked at him with surprise. Her golden eyes were still wet with tears. "Your Majesty," Jake said, "I would like to try to fix your armor." The crowd went silent. Then someone laughed. It was a harsh sound. "A human?" Veltar said. "Your people barely understand basic metallurgy. This armor is made with quantum crystal technology. The molecular structure is beyond your understanding." Other aliens murmured agreement. Some shook their heads like Jake had said something foolish, but Queen Zarathix was still looking at Jake. "You think you can succeed where they have failed?" she asked. Jake picked up one of the broken pieces. It was heavier than he expected but felt warm in his hands. "I don't know," he said honestly. "But I know that metal is metal. And someone made this once. That means someone can fix it." The Queen stared at him for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Very well, human engineer. Try." Jake Morrison carried the broken armor pieces to his small workshop. The other engineers followed him, but they did not look happy. They thought he was wasting time. His workshop was very different from the alien labs. There were no floating screens or glowing crystals, just simple tools hanging on walls. Hammers, wrenches, welding equipment, and rolls of silver tape that humans called duct tape. "This is where you work?" asked Crix, the crystal engineer. His voice sounded like breaking glass when he talked. "Where are your quantum scanners, your molecular rebuilders?" Jake put the armor pieces on his work table. "I don't have those things," he said. "I use what works." Veltar made a sound like laughing, but not in a nice way. "Primitive tools for a primitive mind," he said. "You cannot fix advanced technology with a hammer." Jake did not answer. He was looking closely at the broken metal. He took out a simple magnifying glass and studied the edges where the armor had cracked. Lisa Park walked into the workshop. She was Jake's assistant and the only other human engineer on the base. She was young, but very smart. "Jake," she said, "I heard what happened. Do you really think you can fix the Queen's armor?" "Maybe," Jake said. He was still looking at the metal through his magnifying glass. "Come here, look at this." Lisa looked where Jake was pointing. "The metal is cracked along stress lines," she said. "Like when steel gets too hot and cools too fast." "Exactly," Jake said. He smiled for the first time in days. "The aliens are looking at the quantum parts, but they're not seeing the basic metal underneath." Veltar stepped closer. "What are you talking about?" Jake picked up a small piece of the armor. "This quantum crystal technology you keep talking about. It's built on top of regular metal. Good metal, but still just metal. And metal follows rules. Physics rules. Rules that work the same everywhere in the universe." He pointed to the crack pattern. "See how this broke? The crystal matrix failed because the base metal expanded and contracted. Thermal stress. The ancient smiths knew this would happen, so they built the armor to flex with the stress." Jake walked to his toolbox and pulled out a simple device. It looked like a small gun, but with wires coming out of it. "What is that?" asked Queen Zarathix. She had been quiet, just watching. "Temperature gun," Jake said. "It tells me how hot things are." He pointed it at different parts of the armor. "See? Some parts are hotter than others. Even now, hours after the battle. The quantum crystals create heat when they work. But the heat is not spread evenly." Lisa nodded. "The armor needs better heat distribution." "Right," Jake said. "The original smiths built in heat channels like tiny rivers for heat to flow through. But some of those channels got damaged over the years. The heat built up in the wrong places. That weakened the quantum matrix." Veltar looked confused. "But our scanners showed quantum decay. Molecular breakdown, not thermal damage." "The thermal damage came first," Jake explained. "It caused the quantum problems. Fix the heat issue and the quantum matrix can be rebuilt." Jake started laying out his tools. Simple tools, but he knew how to use them well. "I will need some alien materials," he said. "The quantum crystals are beyond what humans can make, but I can create a better framework for them to sit in." Over the next several hours, Jake worked. The alien engineers watched with growing interest. Jake started by straightening the bent metal pieces. He used heat and pressure, working slowly and carefully. The ancient smiths were very smart, he told Lisa as he worked. They understood that different materials expand at different rates when heated. So they built in expansion joints, places where the metal could move without breaking. He pointed to small grooves in the metal. See these? They look like decoration, but they're really stress relief cuts. When the armor gets hot, the metal expands into these grooves instead of cracking. But some of the grooves are blocked. Lisa said, yes, filled with dirt and damage from 3,000 years of use. The aliens tried to fix the quantum parts, but they never cleaned out the basic mechanical systems. Jake spent hours carefully cleaning each groove. He used small tools to remove old damage and build up. It was slow, boring work, but it was necessary. As he worked, more people came to watch. Word was spreading through the base that the human engineer had a plan. Pete Johnson from communications brought Jake food and coffee. How's it going? He asked. Good, Jake said. I think I understand how this armor was designed to work. The ancient Valerians were amazing engineers. They just did things differently than we do now. Different how? Asked Queen Zarathix. Jake held up a piece of the armor. Modern engineering tries to make everything perfect. No movement, no flexibility, no change. But the old smiths built this armor to change, to adapt, to bend without breaking. He showed her a joint where two pieces connected. This looks like a simple hinge, but it's really a complex system. It can twist, bend, compress, and extend. It can handle forces from any direction. But it broke, Veltar pointed out. It broke after 3,000 years, Jake said, and hundreds of battles. And the damage was not from poor design. It was from lack of maintenance. The flexibility systems got clogged and stiff, like an old machine that needs oil. Jake worked through the night. He cleaned, straightened, and repaired each piece of metal. He restored the heat channels. He freed up the movement joints. He made the metal framework ready to hold quantum crystals, again. By morning, the basic armor structure was repaired. It looked different than before. Cleaner, the metal seemed to shine with new life. Now, Jake said to the alien engineers, I need your help. I cannot make quantum crystals, but I can tell you exactly where to put them and how to connect them. For the first time, Veltar looked impressed. You have done something remarkable, human. You have made the armor better than new. The ground shook violently. Red warning lights flashed throughout the base. Jake looked up from his work on the Queen's armor. Hive attack! Someone shouted over the alarm sounds. All units to battle stations! Through the workshop windows, Jake could see enemy ships in the sky. They looked like giant insects with glowing wings. Plasma fire rained down on the base. We need to get to the shelters, Lisa said. She looked scared, but Jake did not move. I'm almost done, he said. The Queen needs her armor. A huge explosion shook the building. Tools fell off the walls. One of the armor pieces slipped off the work table, but Jake caught it before it hit the floor. Queen Zarathix ran into the workshop. She was wearing regular battle armor now, not her family's ancient suit. Engineer Morrison, she said, the hive has broken through our outer defenses. We must evacuate. How long do I have? Jake asked. Maybe an hour before they reach the main base, the Queen said. Jake looked at the armor. Most of the metalwork was done, but the quantum crystals still needed to be installed. That was delicate work that usually took many hours. I can finish it, he said, but I need power for my tools. Another explosion rocked the building. The lights went out. Emergency power came on, but it was dim and flickering. The main power grid is damaged, Lisa said, checking her tablet. We're running on backup generators. Veltar and the other alien engineers were packing up their equipment. We must leave, Veltar said. The armor cannot be completed in time. Jake stood up straight. Yes, it can. He turned to Lisa. Remember the old Coalition transport vehicles in the motor pool? The ones that don't work? Yes, Lisa said. They have fusion batteries, but they're dead. Not all dead, Jake said. Just discharged. Pete, you know about electrical systems. Can you help me rig up a power supply? Pete Johnson had been helping move equipment. From old vehicle batteries? Jake, that's crazy. Crazy is my specialty, Jake said with a grin. While explosions continued outside, Jake and Pete ran to the motor pool. Lisa stayed behind to organize the quantum crystals that the alien engineers had made. The motor pool was full of damaged vehicles. Some had been hit by enemy fire. Others had just broken down from heavy use. But they all had power cells. "This one," Jake said, pointing to an old transport truck. "The main battery is dead, but the backup cells might still have some charge." Pete opened the vehicle's power compartment. "I'm reading about 30% charge," he said. "That won't last long." "We'll make it last," Jake said. "Help me disconnect these cells." They pulled battery units from several vehicles. The cells were heavy and awkward to carry. Explosions were getting closer. The hive was advancing fast. Back in the workshop, Jake connected the battery cells to his welding equipment and quantum crystal installers. It was not a clean setup. Wires ran everywhere, but it worked. "This is highly irregular," Crick said. The crystal engineer had stayed to help despite the danger. "These power fluctuations could damage the quantum matrix." "Then we'll adapt," Jake said. He began installing the first quantum crystal into the armor's chest piece. His hands were steady despite the building shaking around them. The power flickered. Jake's welding tool went dead. "Batteries drained," Pete said. Jake did not panic. "Lisa, hand me that car battery from the corner." "That's just a regular chemical battery," she said. "It won't have enough power for quantum work." "It will for what I need," Jake said. He connected the car battery to a simple heating coil. "I don't need high-tech power for everything, just heat." He used the simple heating coil to warm the armor metal to the right temperature. Then he used his hands to carefully place the quantum crystal. The crystal glowed as it bonded with the prepared metal. "Incredible," whispered Queen Zarathix. "You are making it work with such simple tools." Another massive explosion shook the base. Part of the ceiling fell down. Dust covered everything. "They've reached the inner defenses," someone shouted from outside. Jake kept working. His improvised power system kept failing, but he found new ways to get the job done. When the electric tools died, he used manual tools. When those broke, he made new ones from scrap metal. Amy Davis from the communications team ran into the workshop. "Jake, enemy forces have broken through Sector 7. We have maybe 20 minutes before they get here." "Almost done," Jake said. He was installing the last quantum crystal into the armor's helmet. Sweat dripped down his face. The building shook again. This time, a large crack appeared in the workshop wall. "The structure is failing," Veltar said. "We must leave now." "5 more minutes," Jake said. "We don't have 5 minutes," Queen Zarathix said. Jake looked at her. The armor was 90% complete. Just a few more connections and it would be ready. But the building was falling apart around them. "Put it on," he said to the Queen. "What?" "Put the armor on now. I can finish the last connections while you wear it." Queen Zarathix stared at him. "That's impossible. The quantum systems are not stable. If they fail while I'm wearing the armor, they won't fail," Jake said. "Trust me." The Queen looked around the crumbling workshop. Outside, laser fire was getting closer. She could hear coalition soldiers fighting and dying. Her people needed her. "Very well," she said. Lisa and Amy helped the Queen put on the armor pieces. The metal felt strange against her skin. It was warm and seemed to vibrate slightly. Jake connected a portable power pack to his belt. "I'll need to stay close to you," he told the Queen. "If anything goes wrong with the connections, I can fix it quickly." Queen Zarathix put on the helmet. The armor's heads-up display came online. Information flowed across her vision. Power, levels, system status, weapon readiness. "It works," she said with amazement. "It actually works." Jake was still making adjustments. He had tools in both hands and was crawling around the Queen's feet, checking connections. "Not just works," he said. "It's better than it ever was before. The heat distribution is perfect. The power flow is optimized. This armor will protect you better than it protected any of your ancestors." A wall of the workshop exploded inward. Hive soldiers poured through the opening. They looked like giant bugs with metal claws and plasma weapons. Queen Zarathix raised her armored hand. Energy weapons built into the armor charged up and fired. The Hive soldiers were destroyed instantly. "Now that," Jake said with satisfaction, "is how armor should work." Queen Zarathik stepped through the hole in the workshop wall. Her repaired armor gleamed even in the dark smoke of battle. Jake followed right behind her, carrying a toolbox and wearing a portable power pack. "Your Majesty," Jake said as they moved, "the armor still needs final adjustments. Some systems might not work perfectly yet. Then you will fix them as we fight," the Queen said. Her voice sounded different through the armor's speakers. Stronger, more confident, they emerged into the main courtyard of the Coalition base. The scene was chaos. Hive soldiers were everywhere, their insect-like bodies gleaming with bioarmor. Coalition forces were falling back, their weapons barely slowing the enemy advance. A group of Valyrian warriors saw their queen and rallied around her. "My queen," one of them shouted. "You wear the ancient armor again." "Yes," Queen Zarathik said, "and today we will show the Hive what Valyrian warriors can do." She raised both hands. Energy weapons in her armor charged up and fired. Bright blue beams cut through 3 Hive soldiers at once, but Jake noticed something wrong. "The power distribution is uneven," he told Lisa through his radio. "The left arm weapon is drawing too much energy." "I can see the problem from here," Lisa replied. She was in the communications bunker with Pete and Amy, monitoring the armor's systems remotely. "The connection to Crystal Array 7 is loose." Jake opened his toolbox while running behind the Queen. "I can fix it, but I need to get to the left shoulder joint." Queen Zarathix was leading a charge against a group of Hive heavy warriors. These were bigger than regular Hive soldiers with thicker armor and more weapons. Her energy blasts were having less effect on them. "My queen," Jake called out, "I need you to kneel down for 30 seconds. "In the middle of battle?" she asked, but she was already dropping to one knee behind a piece of cover. Jake climbed onto her back and opened a small panel near her left shoulder. Plasma fire streaked overhead as he worked. His hands were steady despite the danger. "There," he said, tightening a crystal connection with a small wrench. "Try the left arm weapon now." The Queen stood and fired. This time the blue energy beam was twice as bright. It cut through a Hive-heavy warrior like paper. "Excellent," she said. They advanced deeper into the battle. Jake had to make repairs on the move. When the armor's cooling system started to overheat, he rigged an external cooling unit from a damaged vehicle. When the leg servos began to stick, he applied lubricant while the Queen was fighting. Chris Taylor, the human medic, ran up to them during a brief pause in the fighting. "Jake, are you insane? You're running around in the middle of a war zone with a toolbox." "The armor needs constant adjustment," Jake explained. "The quantum systems are still learning to work with the repaired framework. It's like breaking in a new machine." A massive Hive war beast appeared at the far end of the courtyard. It was the size of a small building, with multiple weapon arms and thick armor plating. Coalition heavy weapons could not penetrate its defenses. "That is a problem," Queen Zarathix said. Jake studied the war beast through a pair of binoculars. "Your armor has enough firepower to hurt it," he told the Queen. "But only if we can concentrate all the weapon systems on one target." "The armor was not designed to do that," Veltar said over the radio. He was watching from a safe bunker with the other alien engineers. "No," Jake agreed, "but I can modify it to do that." He opened his toolbox again. "Lisa, I need you to reroute power from the shield generators to the weapon systems." "That will leave the Queen unprotected," Lisa pointed out. "Not if we're smart about it," Jake said. He was pulling components out of his toolbox, small devices that looked like they came from everyday electronics. "Amy, what's the range to that war beast?" Amy checked her instruments. 800 meters and closing. Jake began connecting his improvised components to the armor's weapon systems. "Perfect. At that range, accuracy is more important than defense. We'll hit it before it can hit us back." He worked quickly, his fingers flying over the connections. The other Coalition soldiers watched in amazement as this human engineer modified alien armor with what looked like spare parts from broken radios. "This is madness," Crick said over the radio. "Those components are not compatible with quantum technology." Everything is compatible if you understand the underlying principles, Jake replied. He made one final connection. Queen Zarathix, please. Raise both arms and target the war beast. The queen aimed at the massive enemy creature. All of her armor's weapon systems synchronized. The targeting computer locked onto the war beast's center of mass. Fire, Jake said. The energy beam that emerged from the queen's armor was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. It was not just blue light. It was a concentrated stream of pure energy that made the air itself glow. The beam struck the hive war beast in its center and cut completely through it. The massive creature collapsed in two pieces. The entire battlefield went quiet for a moment. Both Coalition and Hive forces stared at what had just happened. Then the Coalition soldiers began to cheer. Impossible, Veltar whispered over the radio. Not impossible, Jake said, wiping sweat from his forehead. Just different. The Hive forces began to retreat. Seeing their strongest war beast destroyed by a single shot had broken their will to fight. Queen Zarathix stood in the center of the courtyard, her armor still glowing with residual energy. How did you do that? She asked Jake. I combined your armor's quantum weapon systems with human amplification technology, Jake explained. Instead of multiple weak shots, we created one powerful shot. It's the same principle humans use for laser welding, just scaled up. Pete's voice came over the radio. Jake, you just turned ancient armor into the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. Not permanently, Jake said. That modification will burn out the weapon systems if we use it too much. It's an emergency measure only. But the battle was won. The Hive forces were retreating to their ships. The Coalition base was saved. Queen Zarathix removed her helmet and looked at Jake. You have done something remarkable, human. You have not only repaired my ancestors' armor, you have made it greater than it ever was. Jake packed up his tools. I just helped it be what it was always meant to be, he said. Adaptable, flexible, ready for anything. Around them, Coalition soldiers were celebrating, but Jake was already thinking about the next challenge. There would always be something else that needed fixing. That was what he did. He fixed things, and sometimes he made them better. 3 days after the battle, the Coalition base was busy with repairs. Damaged buildings were being fixed, new defenses were being built. But the most important work was happening in the main meeting hall. Representatives from all 7 Coalition races had gathered. They wanted to understand what had happened during the battle. How had one human engineer succeeded where their best scientists had failed? Jake Morrison sat at a table in front of the assembled crowd. He felt nervous. These were some of the smartest beings in the galaxy, and they all wanted to know his secrets. Queen Zarathix stood at the center of the room. She was wearing her ancestral armor, but now it looked different, better. The metal seemed to shine with an inner light, and the quantum crystals pulsed with steady energy. 3 days ago, the Queen began. My family's armor lay in pieces, broken beyond repair according to our finest engineers. Today, that same armor is stronger than ever. Before she turned to look at Jake. Engineer Morrison, will you explain to the assembly how you accomplished this miracle? Jake stood up slowly. It wasn't a miracle, he said. It was just problem solving. A murmur went through the crowd. Some of the alien representatives looked skeptical. The armor was not really broken, Jake continued. The basic structure was still sound. The quantum crystals had failed because their foundation had problems. Fix the foundation, and the advanced parts work again. Veltar, the Zentarian engineer, raised one of his 6 hands. But our analysis showed complete quantum decay. The molecular bonds were severed. The molecular bonds failed because of thermal stress, Jake explained. The armor was designed to handle heat, but the heat management system had broken down over thousands of years. Once I fixed that, the quantum systems could be rebuilt. Dr. Yothma from the Helios gas world floated forward. Her translucent body glowed with curiosity. But how did you see this when our advanced scanners could not? Jake scratched his head. Maybe because I wasn't looking for advanced problems. I was looking for simple problems. Sometimes the simple answer is the right answer. Lisa Park stood up from the audience. If I may, she said. Jake approaches problems differently than most engineers. He looks at how things are supposed to work, not just how they're built. Explain, said Queen Zarathix. Jake walked over to a wall screen and drew a simple diagram. Most modern engineering tries to make things perfect and unchanging, but the ancient Valyrian smiths built the armor to change and adapt. They understood that nothing stays the same forever. He pointed to different parts of his diagram. The armor was designed to flex, to absorb stress, to distribute heat. But over time, those adaptive systems got clogged and stiff. The aliens, the other engineers, were trying to fix the quantum systems, but they should have been fixing the adaptive systems first. Crix, the crystal engineer, made a sound like wind chimes. This is a completely different approach to engineering. You treat technology like a living thing. In a way it is, Jake said. Any complex system needs maintenance. It needs to be adjusted for new conditions. It needs to grow and change, or it dies. General Thax, the military leader of the coalition, stepped forward. This is all very interesting, but what does it mean for our war against the Hive? Jake looked at Queen Zarathix. She nodded for him to continue. It means we've been thinking about the war wrong, Jake said. We've been trying to match Hive technology with better Hive technology, but maybe we should be using different technology, adaptive technology. He turned to address the whole assembly. Human engineering isn't as advanced as yours. Our materials aren't as strong. Our power sources aren't as efficient, but our systems are flexible. They can be modified quickly for new situations. Pete Johnson stood up from the back of the room. What Jake is saying is that humans are good at making things that can be fixed and changed. We call it field modification. Amy Davis nodded. During the battle, Jake modified the Queen's armor in real time, while she was fighting. Our equipment is designed to be changed on the spot. Dr. Yothma glowed brighter. Fascinating. Your technology is designed to evolve during use. Exactly, Jake said. And I think that's what the Coalition needs. Not just better weapons and armor, but weapons and armor that can adapt to whatever the Hive throws at us. Queen Zarathix walked over to Jake. Engineer Morrison, I have a proposal for you. The room went quiet. I want to create a new department in the Coalition Engineering Corps, she said. The Department of Adaptive Engineering, and I want you to lead it. Jake's mouth fell open. Me? But You are just the engineer who fixed the unfixable, the Queen interrupted. You are just the human who turned ancient armor into the most powerful weapon we have ever seen. You are just the person who thinks differently than everyone else, she smiled. Those are exactly the qualifications we need. Veltar raised his hands again. Your Majesty, with respect, Engineer Morrison is very skilled. But can one human really change how we approach engineering? Not one human, Jake said, finding his voice. All of us working together. Humans and aliens. Each bringing our own strengths. He looked around the room. Humans are good at adaptation and field modification. Centaurians are excellent at precision manufacturing. The Crystal people understand materials better than anyone. The Helios engineers know more about energy systems than we could learn in 100 years. Jake walked to the center of the room. What if we combined all of those strengths? What if we created hybrid technology that uses the best of every race? The room buzzed with conversation as the representatives discussed this idea. Queen Zarathix raised her hand for silence. The Queen of the Valyrian people formally requests that the Coalition approve the creation of the Department of Adaptive Engineering, with Jake Morrison as its director. One by one, the representatives voted. It was unanimous. 2 months later, Jake stood in his new laboratory. It was much larger than his old workshop, and it was full of the strangest mix of equipment anyone had ever seen. Human tools hung next to Centaurian precision instruments. Crystal growing chambers sat beside human welding stations. Lisa Park walked up to him carrying a tablet. Jake, we have requests from 12 different Coalition worlds for adaptive engineering consultations, and the new armor designs are working better than anyone expected. Jake smiled as he watched his new team working together. Humans and aliens, side by side, solving problems with creativity and cooperation. Chris Taylor poked his head through the door. "Jake, the Queen wants to see you. Something about a new project." As Jake walked toward the Queen's office, he passed a wall where someone had painted a motto. "Every problem has a solution. You just have to be willing to try something different." It had become the unofficial slogan of the Department of Adaptive Engineering. Jake had fixed the Queen's armor. But more than that, he had fixed the way the Coalition thought about problems. Sometimes the best solution was not the most advanced one. Sometimes the best solution was the one that could change and grow and adapt to new challenges. Sometimes the best solution was simply to try something different. And sometimes when an alien queen cried about broken armor, a human engineer should step forward and say, "I can fix that.